Welcome to the Everceline podcast, the show that ignites your passion for leadership and empowers you to develop a culture of continuous improvement. I'm your host, Matt Sims, and in each episode, we bring you fascinating insights and invaluable tips from our incredible lineup of guests. What do they all have in common? They share an unwavering dedication to excellence and are the experts in driving engagement, improving metrics, and reducing costs.
The Everceline podcast with Matt Sims. You know it makes sense.
This episode is sponsored by Catalyst Consulting Limited. Catalyst Consulting exists to help people and organisations work better today and be ready for tomorrow. They have a rich history of igniting business transformation using business agility, lean, Six Sigma, strategy deployment, agile and change management. They can help you and your organisation to develop the skills necessary to work and manage differently. To find out more, check out catalystconsulting.co.uk. Today, I'm honoured to host David Savage, a seasoned leader, certified professional coactive coach, and founder of Manufacturing with Purpose. With vast experience spanning engineering, manufacturing and leadership, David's journey goes beyond process optimization. He's passionate about uncovering untapped human potential in manufacturing. David's roles in operations management ignited a dual passion for refining processes and nurturing talent at the same time. Recognizing overlooked potential in the industry, he shifted focus to coaching and personal development. As a transformation leader, David championed a coaching-driven approach, doubling output and cutting lead times. His emphasis on engaging teams and fostering quality culture drives tangible results, an approach that I personally feel a really strong connection to. His impact ranges from lean innovation and reducing defects, fostering environments where talent thrives and innovation flourishes. David, as a professional coactive coach, empowers individuals to turn aspirations into infusing organisations with renewed purpose. In our conversation today, we'll explore self-awareness, believing in teams and unlocking potential within organisations. David will share strategies to create empowering cultures, dispel management myths, and cultivate a growth-orientated mindset. David, a very warm welcome to the Everceline podcast.
Thank you, Matt. It's really a delight to be here. Looking forward to talking.
Yeah, first of the year, renewed energy. We're raring to go. It's the best time to be on.
It is, yeah. No, it's good to be back in the groove and getting leaner for the new year.
Is this your first day back after Christmas?
Yeah, it is really. Yeah, I've had a few little check-ins.
Yeah, I know it sounds really strange, but it's nice to be off. But I think it's also nice to sometimes just to get back into that normal routine and get back to work, isn't it?
Well, I don't like to admit it. I don't know how many members of my family will be listening to this, but I think that's just the way I'm wired. I'm okay, but I start getting scratchy if I can't, get out there and be making changes and doing my craft, I suppose. So it's both are needed, and I'm glad for the break.
Yeah, I get it. You told me off air a minute ago, though, that you couldn't wait to get back to work and that you were just championing the lager was getting you through. It was like, I need to get back to work. He didn't really.
What I will say, Matt, this is the Everceline podcast. So what I will say is over Christmas, I did implement a little bit of 5S in my routine. So we've cleaned out the crap in the cupboards so that we're using the stuff which actually gets used is at the top of the, is accessible.
Brilliant.
So I'm looking forward to going into the year a bit more leaner, finding the stuff I need a bit quicker, being a bit more on it. So now I'm strictly banned from labeling in the house, but I have quietly snuck in a bit of 5S there. So
good on you. Do you know, I've been promising to do my garage for so long. I am so fed up with trying to do a quick job in the house, but having to spend probably treble the amount of time the job takes in the garage looking for a screwdriver or looking for a set of pliers.
It drives you nuts, yeah.
I'm so fed up with it. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to record this in a time lapse and then share it on the socials so people can see the power of a good 5S. But I'm going to completely 5S my garage. I'm going to build shadow boards. I'm going to make it look nice. I'm going to mark it all out. and then I'm going to share it so people can actually see that I walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
And how are you going to engage your team in this, Matt? Because you've
Well,
got kids and stuff. That's the thing which you really come.
My team will consist of an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah, okay.
Are very
Good luck
willing
with
to
that.
go in the garage and help do it. I shall bribe them with the promise of a trip to Costa for a hot chocolate afterwards.
Good on you. No, that's good. Yeah, it'll push you to your limits. The garage project.
Yeah. There'll be no audio on this time lapse, I might add. It'll just be a video. There'll be no me shouting at the kids, get over here, carry on with this job, do it properly. Right, let's get into our subject today because we've got loads to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your insights and your experience in this realm. Let's kick off with your personal journey. So can you share with us sort of the pivotal moments that led to you to focus on operations management and then into the coaching and the personal development side within manufacturing? Because there's quite a few different areas you sort of transverse there.
Yeah, I have fallen quite far from the tree. I actually started off more in engineering, so I did mechanical engineering. I mean, looking back, I sort of see there was a thin red thread, but when I've done sort of personality profile tests recently, detail is actually quite low on where I go. If I tend to be more about people and connecting. That's how I sort of solve problems, is by who should I ask now rather than going into the detail. And I think I've always loved the physical, the working world of seeing a product coming together. So manufacturing has always been there. But it was probably at my first job, which was in BAE Systems, a defense company. And we did a site closure project. And part of the job was to identify the people knowledge bit, which needed to transfer over to another site. So the people weren't moving. They were, it was a long distance. 100% of the staff were going to be made redundant, but the technology, the process was going to move. So it was, how do you capture the stuff in people's heads and move it across? And I think that was where I really started to realize how incredibly important the human being is to the process, particularly, the hidden tacit knowledge, the what to do when this happens, what happens when it goes wrong, who do you call, what happened 10 years ago when we tried this, then we had an issue.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to do that again. No one writes that sort of stuff down. It's just in what we call expert knowledge. So I started to realize that this is fascinating stuff, the amount of information and how important the human being is alongside the process. So, that was about knowledge transfer, and I really enjoyed that project, and it probably started moving me into more the people side of engineering, the human factors, which I just really love. I just love seeing that. And I love seeing how, if you can crack that part of the puzzle, the technology comes together. Where people are at loggerheads, they can't use technology. It's all there, but they just can't really use it. And you know what it's like to integrate new technology. If you don't have the team with you, it's just hard work. It just doesn't go there. So that's the space I love. I think the other event, which was really significant for me, was completely by accident. One of my friends did a coaching qualification, and he needed to work with clients to build up his sort of experience. So I was paying like 10 quid for a session, and it was, it was full on life coaching. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to go? This kind of stuff. And I really responded to it, and I started putting things in place I've been putting on the back burner, wanting, wishing, hoping, and thinking it would just happen. I started addressing those things, like moving house and different things like that. And I realized that it wasn't the ability I was lacking. It was that follow through and that self-belief and that consistency towards my priorities. So that was kind of a bit of a light bulb moment, that it's not about knowledge and capability, but about motivation and belief and these kind of things. So I that has always fascinated me, and having that first-hand experience made me realize this is something I would really love to do for other people as well.
When you had that experience in that manufacturing plant where you were they were all being made redundant and the technology was moving across, how did you go about getting that information from people? Was there a reluctance for them to share their knowledge knowing they were leaving? Were they willing leavers, or was there a bit of resistance there?
Yeah. So, I mean, you sort of might think there's lots of goodwill. It wasn't like, there was a good severance package and stuff. But what we found is that people wanted to share. If you ask someone about their knowledge and you are approaching it from a genuine point of curiosity and humility, people are generally really happy to share. They like the fact that their knowledge is finally being poured out to them. What drives people to distraction is if they feel it's being abused, or if they feel disrespected, or they feel something's unfair. So if you've got some emotion around that, then of course people will be reluctant. They won't come to these sessions, or they'll be kind of like a little bit sort of coy about their answers and that kind of thing. So we found it's really about creating the recipient being ready to receive. That's what it's all about. And then the expert will happily share.
I've moved house before, most of us have, and you get to know your home, don't you? You know the quirks of your house. You know that heating timer plays up every now and then. You need to do this to it. You know that the water does a certain noise or something, and you get used to it. And I've bought houses before where it's been a really elongated process, right? It's gone on, and there's been a bit of to-ing and fro-ing, and the survey's thrown up stuff, and I've asked the people in the house to make certain changes, and they've reluctantly done it. And anyway, it goes on and on and on. Then you move into the house, and because it's been this drawn out process and they're not willing participants anymore, they've kind of got fed up with you. They don't tell you about all this quirky stuff. So you end up going in and you've got the technology in the house. You've got the Hive central heating system that does it all itself, but you don't know how to use any of it because they've taken the instruction manual. You don't know the quirks of the house. Yet other times I've moved into properties where the previous owners left me like a handwritten manual. The bins come on a Tuesday, do recycling every other week, and they really lay it out for you. And it makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Where there's willingness, things go smoothly. And, it's a great anecdote. And, it's just like the ventilator challenge. When companies were behind this because they all had a common goal and they wanted to work together, they wanted to save lives, you get this immediate collaboration between different organizations, just boom, like that. No problem at all. I mean, that's the wonderful thing, is that when there is goodwill, when there is genuine participation, lots of things just get overcome. They just get sorted out, no problem. And you can try and use your tools and techniques and all this kind of stuff. What you need to do is engage hearts and minds.
Yeah. If you could bottle a goodwill potion and sell it, you'd be a multi-billionaire. You'd be knocking Elon Musk off of his perch, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think I feel I have part of that recipe in that bottle, but it is only a part of it, and there's lots of other factors which you've got to get right. Chris Voss, he wrote a book. He was an FBI negotiator, and he's written this book, Never Split the Difference. It's a really good read, but he talks about engaging with hostage takers, and how by having genuine listening to their perspective, how they will start opening up and telling you their challenges and working with you because you have absolutely respect for their position. You're not agreeing with it, but you're respecting that in their world it makes perfect sense. In their world it's completely logical what they're doing. And that then buys people's willingness to engage with you and start negotiating. So, I think, if you want people to get what your point of view is immediately, you're going to keep knocking heads together. Just first seeking to understand the other perspective immediately starts opening up the dialogue.
It's that empathy piece, isn't it? You need to have empathy with people. It's the cornerstone of any kind of transformation or change, is having empathy with your audience. You remind me of that episode of It Only Fools and Horses where Del and Rodney go to the supermarket and it's being robbed, and they get locked in the office upstairs with the bank manager or whoever he is, and the robber's trying to rob it, and then suddenly Del realizes he knows the robber's mum, and he's like, I know your mum, I sold her a fur coat, and he goes, oh, hello Del, yeah, I remember you. And all of a sudden he's gone from this really scary robber, and he just poured out his life story, his address and everything because he knows his mum.
It is completely nuts. Yeah.
For those who don't know what Only Fools and Horses is, if you're listening in some far-flung place in the world, it's an absolutely brilliant sitcom from back in the day. You could probably find it on Netflix and stuff, but it's brilliant. Watch it. And if you see that episode, you know exactly what we're talking about. Shall we move on? Leadership and continuous improvement, a subject that I absolutely love, as you can probably tell. So, David, what role do you see leadership playing in fostering a culture where employees feel empowered to excel and innovate? How do we create that apart from this magic potion?
Yeah, the leader has responsibility. They have a job to do. That's why they were hired. They take ownership. They can shoulder that commitment, if you like. But they're going to need to do it through their fellowship. That's the bottom line. Ultimately, it'll only ever be their kind of, they can pull their hierarchy card, saying you must do this. But if you really want to unlock the what I call intrinsic motivation, the stuff really, the real power, if you like, the real goodwill, engagement, what we've just discussed, you're going to need to understand makes your team work, what drives them, what they want, and they might not be quite as interested in hitting the KPI for the week as you. That might really not what sets them alight. They're to go home and tell people that I've got 75 widgets out today. That's amazing. We've never done that before. It might not be quite the same as for the leader. And you think of like your own performance, what a good leader has done for you, how it has made your job enjoyable, and not least the ones right in the middle between the C-suite and the shop floor. Those guys have, they're pulled in lots of different directions and often not given much training in that. They've risen up from doing a good job and they're good at what they do. They haven't necessarily been taught about how to manage people, and suddenly they're doing that, handling all that stress from different quarters.
It's hard. I do think that when I was a young guy going into the working world, the manager, the leader, the boss, they were the oracle. They were like the person. When I look back now, some of them were terrible, right? Really shocking. But I don't think they ever had any kind of coaching or guidance in how to be a leader and the impact that they will have on young minds. Because when I became a leader, without even knowing it, I naturally slipped into that role that manager that I had back in the day was, because that's what I saw a leader as. And I was doing exactly the behaviors that they were doing, even though as a recipient of those behaviors, I hated it and it was awful and I left. But I mirrored those
Yeah.
behaviors because it's what I'd seen.
Yeah. No, it was the only blueprint you had, really. That was,
Precisely,
and you
yeah.
don't think that, but subconsciously you do ingest it. I think it just goes into
You
your
do.
that's what they do. That's what you do. That's what bosses do. This is how they dress. This is how they walk. This is how they talk.
Mm,
This is the language they
mm.
use. No, I think it's fascinating. And one of the things I'll say to clients, just describe your best boss you've had. Let's just look at the characteristics. How did they get the best out of you? And just reflecting over that will let you immediately start thinking, well, am I doing that for my team? No, I'm just telling them what I hated being told what to do. And yet now I'm just telling, and I'm frustrated while people aren't doing exactly what I say. But just reflect. Okay, well, how
Yeah.
could you? What did he do? Well, he listened to me. He got onto my project. He or she cared about me as a person. I felt like they actually genuinely cared for me. That felt really good. So, do you genuinely
Mm.
care for your guys? Do you know what they're up against, what their struggles are, and are they someone they could see as an ally for them?
I have it with my kids. If I tell my son to do something and I pull that "I am your father, you must do as I say" card, he does a half-assed job. It's scrappy, it's Bodget and Scarpa, and I end up having to redo it. If he's passionate about it and we've made it fun and, he understands why he needs to do it and we make it, a bit of a responsibility thing. Look, son, you're getting a bit older now. I need you to help out with this. Can you go and scrape that wallpaper off the wall for me? It's got to be nice and smooth. You've then got to sand it down because when we paint it, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. He'll do a cracking job. But if I just say, go and scrape that wallpaper off, do it now as you're not going on your iPad. That's it. Do it now. And he just goes over and it's half bodged. It's not worth it, is it? It's better to put a little bit of time into the individual up front because you get such a better result at the end of it.
You did right. Yeah, you did right. And my domestic equivalent, man, I said to my kids, I bet you can't unload the dishwasher in less than a minute. Okay. So, wow, there's lots of energy. There's also lots of breakages. But, I totally agree. The difference between doing that,
Yeah.
I, my father, do this. And let's make this a game. It's it's just another world. It's another world how people show up. Same task,
Yeah.
different motivation.
My kids have got wise to me because I'm like, right, if you don't stop misbehaving, we're not going to go to Costa. We're not going to Costa today if you carry on. They carry on. I go, right, we're not going to Costa now. And I sit there and think, damn, I want to go to Costa. How am I going to get out of this now? Because I've told them we're not going. So then we go and we get there and I go, right, I'm just buying for me. You're not having nothing now. It's just for me. And we get in there and I'm like, can I have a large latte and 2 hot
Easily.
chocolates for the kids, please? And they know every week that he's just going to say that and he's going to get it at the end. He's making that false threat that doesn't really exist. But as a human, I slip back into that mindset, even though I know that it's better to engage and get them on my side. I still fall into that bit where I go parent-child and I start dictating. I think it's something to do with time and rushing, and I feel like I haven't got time to stand there and do that piece. In the work equivalent, sometimes I've been in that position as a leader and as a follower where there hasn't been time to really do that hearts and minds piece. I just need it done and it's got to happen today type of thing. That's quite difficult to overcome.
What I do, I would say, generally speaking, it's not complex, but it does make it easy. I would say, I sort of think, why anyone could do this stuff. Yeah, but it's actually really difficult. It's really difficult. Like you say, we revert to type and time's against us. And got your own challenges, that's for sure. You're in the middle of being squeezed as well. But I think that's why it's good to have people who can support you. And, if you do nothing else, have a bit of time to step out and reflect and go into it, just to pause a bit. What kind of leader do I want to be? And as a really interesting, you'll find this interesting, Matt, Peter Hines, he's a semi-retired now, but do you know Peter?
I've seen it. He's on LinkedIn, isn't he? I've seen a lot of his posts.
Okay.
He's got a few books as well.
He shared a really good concept, which I love, called the level 0 meeting. So you have the level 1 meeting with shop floor, level 2 with supervisors and so on. But he says the level 0 meeting is the meeting you have with yourself, the pep talk you have with yourself.
That's
it's like,
brilliant.
What kind of a day am I going to make this? How am I going to show up? How do I want to come across? Do I want to come across as the guy with the furrowed brow of the world of his head, or do I want to engage with my team and really wish him a good morning? And I love that. I think that's the kind of meeting which is so
awesome.
important for culture, But you have to take ownership for that. No one's going to tell you, have you had your meeting? And
I'm going to put that in back. Can you imagine that in your calendar, level 0 meeting? And in some organisations I've worked at, I've shared my calendar with my boss, and I can imagine them ringing me up going, "What's all these level 0 meetings? I've never heard of these." Like, "Oh, that's the meeting with myself where I'm going to just
so busy. I'm so busy with my level 0 meetings. I haven't got time to see you, mate."
What's that all-day session on Friday? Level 0 meeting. I'm just reflecting on what I've done and what I'm going to do next week
on the golf course.
Yeah, it's the best place.
No, it is really important, and that's why don't want to sort of divert your agenda too much, but taking time out, actually. One thing I would say is, as lean enthusiasts, we love getting things done. We love output and pushing things out the door. Then we get a kick from accomplishment, right? But it can be obsessive. You want to just squeeze you want to squeeze so much into your day, and even at the end of the day, you run right up to the bus. You're still trying to knock out a few more emails, rather than just a little bit of time just to stop and say, what is the most important thing really, really now? What is what's the one thing I learned from yesterday, which will make today a little bit better? And these are just a little bit of time, which actually does shape the personal growth piece. And you don't need a coach to do that. That's something you just need to get into, that practice of reflection and writing down your intention, and that will make a difference. Compound that every day for a year.
Yeah.
You're going to be showing up better by the end of it.
A very wise leader once told me, when I used to go into meetings with senior leaders, if I was trying to pitch a new idea, or particularly with continuous improvement or a lean initiative, I'd be going on there trying to sell this initiative to some directors. And like you said before, they're being squeezed, right? They've got their deliverables, they've got the operation to nail. They hear this guy coming along talking about all this fluffy continuous improvement stuff. They're not really interested. And I used to waffle, right, for an hour. And this wise person once said to me, write down 3 bullets of what you want to get from this session. They are your 3 main takeaways, and just focus on those 3 takeaways. The rest can come at another time. And it really helped me, because I started having a Post-it note stuck on the bottom of the screen so I could see it the whole way through the call. And it really helped me focus and make sure I got the value for me and for them out of that meeting.
Super technique. Love it. Yeah.
It worked really
Yeah.
well. I
Very
just
good.
I had a whole sea of Post-it notes stuck across the bottom of my monitor in the end, though. I had to find a different method.
That's very good.
But
Love
with
it.
what you were saying then about working up to a deadline, when I think about my experiences, when I work up to a deadline, work right up to the last minute, don't stop, just to catch that bus sort of piece, more often than not, I regret or end up redoing the piece of work that I was doing right up to then, or I read the social media post that I put out in a rush and there's mistakes or errors and I wish I'd have done something slightly different. I think sometimes it's actually better to take that pause and say, do you know what, I'll do this later or tomorrow and just step away.
This is it, and the Peter Drucker one. I seem to be naming Peters, but there's nothing more pointless than doing efficiently that which should not be done at all.
That is spot on.
So you're rattling it out. They shouldn't even be done,
Yeah.
So
What's the value? Where's the value?
one great sort of technique is say, like, if you were like really critically injured, or your working time had massively reduced, what would be the 2 hours you would make sure happen? If you only had 2 hours with your team, how would you spend those 2 hours? And that helps people and usually they'll say, I would make sure it's really clear. I'd speak to my key people and make sure they knew what the mission was and talked about what's their big challenge. And that's it. That's what I would do. So have you done that this week? No. That really, what's the key? What's the critical? What's getting in your way? Speaking to them. Often they're like ships passing in the night. Your most important people, you're like ships passing in the night because they're good guys. They do their job, and that is the time to really protect.
Mm.
That particular time, really protect. And those are often like building the relationships thing. Hard to kind of get really lean about that sort of stuff. It doesn't. Relationships don't work so well with lean thinking. They're not like, they don't work like that. They actually require you to genuinely put your own agenda to one side to get your output out of the way and really think about someone else. Can't always limit that to time. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what people overlook it because lean is built on empathy and respect for people, but so often people who are trying to drive transformation forget that element and go straight in for the metrics, the KPIs, the improvements, and that's the challenge because you haven't done that relationship building and that piece, and it's not this communal effort then to drive things forward. It becomes a leader with a stick beating the people on the floor to try and get those results, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Are there any other strategies that you've implemented in your realms of a transformation leader to achieve like the results that you have where you've doubled the output and reduced lead time? How have you done that?
The transformational leader piece. So just to give a little bit of an overview, I was an employee up to 2020, and after 2020, I did my own coaching practice and consultancy. So within the organization, that's where the bulk of my working life has been inside a structure. I've had a boss to report to and so on. One case study I can talk about was actually in the world of innovation. So there's an innovation center. This is it's not a product, it's about creating data points. It's about evaluating different products and different concepts. So we had a challenge where we had very long lead times from the time to submitting your test to getting a test result. But obviously that slows down the whole product development cycle. So we've got loads of ideas, but we don't know which one's the best. So we'll just come up with more ideas.
Yeah.
So my role as an operations manager is how do we shorten this like feedback loop? How do we get it down? And there it's like exactly what you said, the respect for people and coaching the team. Like, how can we reduce that? And everyone has a role to play in that. And what I found really interesting, because we had an operation with scientists, very gifted scientists, and we had people who were running the equipment, who were apprentice trained CNC workers and so on. And we needed everyone. It wasn't a technological solution here. We had to get more output from the machines, and that was using classic lean technique. What's the waste? Value stream mapping. How do we find the biggest waste? What can we do about that? And getting the guys who were working with, when I say guys, just for clarity, I mean guys and girls. I just use that. So
Yeah.
just
A collective of people.
yeah, I just that's my words. But but how would you solve that problem if we want to reduce that waiting time from here to here, or that transfer time, the changeover time from here to here? How can we do that and involve the people doing the job in that process? Which is, you're familiar with that, Matt. But it was phenomenal how powerful that was in a research environment. So it wasn't necessarily our brain boxes. It was our people
Yeah.
who are actually touching the equipment on the test. They can see these things, so a little example of, just, oh, we're taking this little image or we're doing this thing now. Oh, no one ever even looks at that. So why don't we just not do it? And does anyone need it? Well, no one's using it. Okay, let's just take it out, and it was just like, it's just challenging. That's, challenge the status quo, little things like that really make a difference. But also teaching people about first in, first out and queue jumping and the impact of those kind of things on innovation. It makes a big difference. When that would apply in the NHS or in retail, whatever, people love this sort of express lane and fast tracking, and it's terrible for lead time. It's really bad, and it also adds lots of complexity because you get these kind of stresses and strains around people who are trying to work the system to find, how do I get into the fast track? So they're using all their energy on basically non-value add rather than let's process people first in, first out. We know how the system works, and it runs well, and everyone gets a better service.
13-time Shingo Prize winner Dr. Jeffrey Leiker and Toyota Kata author Mike Rother have created the Improvement Kata and Coaching Kata online course. This inexpensive, compact program is designed to transform your thinking and approach, making you a highly skilled learner and coach. Engage in deliberate practice to turbocharge your progress. You also get lifetime access to the materials, including all of the bonus interviews. Why pay up to 10 times the price elsewhere, listening to some consultant, when you can gain direct insights from the masters themselves? Skip the rest and go with the best. Join us today and embark on your journey to excellence. Just click on the link below to start your journey.
With 30 years of experience in certifying a range of improvement techniques, BQF is the standard you can trust in an ever-expanding market of qualifications. To gain a BQF certification, you need to demonstrate more than knowledge. You need to prove that you've been there, done it, and have learned from your mistakes. A BQF certification guarantees professionals who can walk the walk. Once certified by BQF, you are listed on their certification register where you can annually update your status to prove that you're still practicing your skills. BQF certifications come in 4 levels: Associate Practitioner, Practitioner, Advanced Practitioner, and Master Practitioner, giving opportunity to grow and develop in each of these areas. Head to bqf.org.uk today to find out more about certifications in change management, customer experience, Lean Six Sigma, living your values, mental health and well-being, personal development, and program and project management. Once you become aware of those things, though, you see them everywhere, don't you? Your eyes just open up to it. I sound like I work my children, but I don't work my children. They just help out. Like, they've got their chores that they do. When I was hoovering the downstairs the other day, my son helps. And what happens is he goes in front of me, and he's in charge of prepping the rooms ready for me to hoover.
Like
So
this.
he moves things out the way. He's got really smart at it now, and he's always one room ahead. So he's really staying ahead of the game, right? He's keeping that value stream flowing constantly. And what he did the other day is he moved like the vegetable rack in the kitchen, he moved the bin, and he moved the baby's high chair to the other side of the room. But when he did it, he put them in a different order. Anyway, when I was hoovering, I had to move the plug. So the hoover went off for a second, and he went, "Dad, look what I've done over here." He goes, "I've put them in this order. So when I put them back, they go back in this order now. So it's much easier to do. I haven't got to move things around." And I was like, "Oh, what you've done there?" I said, "That's called FIFO. So that's first in, first out. So you've lined them up in that way." And I explained the logic to him. And he goes, "Oh, that's brilliant. I'm doing FIFO." He's on the call with his mates. "Hey, I've just done FIFO. Yeah, I'm just doing FIFO."
It's got
Proper in on
it
it.
sounds cool, doesn't it? Yeah.
It sounds great. But these things, we do these sorts of things, and these tools that are used in Lean, like your first in, first out and stuff like that, even if you're not familiar with Lean concepts, you will know it. If you go up to somebody and you explain what that is, they will go, "Oh, yeah, we do that. We do it here, we do it there, we do it we put our bins around the side of the house, we put them in the order at which they're going out, so I know which one goes out first next week."
Yeah. Yeah.
We do it, don't we?
Yeah, and obviously like supermarkets to the shelves, and they're putting the new products back.
Precisely, yeah.
The only thing is that obviously the canny customer is reaching to the back because they
That's
know
me.
this. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be the one who's going to be like,
I'm not getting mugged off.
exactly. The point to be made here is that explain this logic. Let's do role play it out. Let's actually, for the scientists particularly, these guys are wired to look at things in an analytical way. We actually did the model where you have the lead times. You kind of role play the interrupt. So something's going to leapfrog the queue. You add all the lead times up and you show the average lead times actually gone up. Even though one person had a brilliant performance, overall, there's more clocks ticking on the case. The overall time is going to be more. Okay, but they need to see it, because it's the emotional thing is not going to help. They need to see it analytically, and that's part of like understanding your audience as to what is the language they're going to buy into. And for some people, it's like, oh, I'm getting trained, FIFO. I'm using these great techniques, and I feel like I'm becoming a real process engineer. That kind of is driving them, and they want to use their new techniques as often as possible. But it doesn't always go down that well because they haven't engaged the hearts and minds, and people don't understand what they're trying to achieve. It's just for them. And we're all like that. We see the world from our perspective and think everyone else should just immediately get that.
There's some brilliant software where you actually build those models and it shows the clocks ticking and the different workstations, and you can see the build up of inventory at each one and the waste there. And I think that visualization breaks down barriers. So whether you're a shop floor worker, whether you're the manager in the ivory tower, or you're a middle manager, if you can actually see visually the impact of what things do and how your actions make that happen, I think you're much more willing to engage in any kind of solution or kind of transformation.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I really agree. The Roosevelt quote is a great one. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So
Yeah.
it's like, hey guys, I know this has been difficult to explain, so I'm going to kind of really sit you down. I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you the courtesy of a bit of training now and talk to you as adults, and that people who are clever guys who want to do the right thing and who want to do the best of the company. The reason why you want large batch processes is because in your world, that's why wouldn't you do that? I can contribute more. Why would I want small batches? I can contribute more with a big batch. It's completely respecting the fact that that would make sense, that this is someone who actually wants to contribute in a good way. So they're going to fight back if you start taking that away from them because they feel they're going to do less.
Yeah, because logically that makes sense, doesn't it? You put yourself in that person's shoes. You walk. Was it say you walk a mile in that person's shoes or
the
whatever?
Moccasins.
Yeah, but that's what it is. They are thinking you're asking me to do less, but I want to do more. Why are you asking me to do less?
And do their job for a bit, and you'll realize why that is really difficult to shift from doing that thing. So yeah,
that's always the key. I always think that, if you're a leader of people and you really want to engage with your team and work with them, you need to go and do their job. You need to spend some time on the shop floor, living in their world, their bubble, doing what they do. So you really understand the challenges of what they do.
And the tedious bits. You do that then. Okay, so you count all that stuff now. It's like, this is really boring.
Yeah.
You're going to do anything to get out of that. It's like, so let's find a way, guys. Let's find a way. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I want to do that, like that job. I know it makes perfect sense to do that. But if we can find a solution, let's try and find it together. And sometimes there are stuff where you have to suck it up and do something which is boring. But at least you can do it with recognizing that's difficult and give them praise for it.
So in that environment then, so you're in a busy working environment where there's loads going on. Everyone's got their own personal battles that they're fighting with their role. You've got the leaders that are trying to drive the KPIs and move things forward. How do you drive a sustainable growth for the development of talent within that environment? How do you make time for that and not just be transfixed on delivering the product at the end of the day?
It's a great question. Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to say, hard to do. Yeah, it makes sense to invest in your growth. It makes sense to sharpen the saw. The thing of cutting down the tree. If you spend some time sharpening the saw, you can be more effective and all that. It makes perfect sense. But what I found works is, it needs to be owned by the person who's going to benefit. And I think, you can tell people take time out and stuff, but you've got to role model that yourself. I take time out, I will do that, and really respect their boundaries and help people to help themselves, because it can be really difficult. Someone's got like a course they're going to do and they're very committed to getting the KPI. They're committed people. It's for them to do a course, even though you want them to do it. So the business wants them to do it. You're giving them the time, and yet there's this thing in their own head, which is, I need to get the output. I care for the organization. That actually can be a very, very strong thing to break. And it is partly around it may be around their standing amongst the team. I don't want to be the one seen to be in the office. I don't want to be that kind of, I don't know, Judas, who's like not like with the lads, or I'm not with the team. So it's breaking through that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's seriously outside of someone's comfort zone. They would much rather do the everyday job than sit in front of a laptop or do something paper-based. It's like, and they're going to make every excuse to avoid that. And they kind of want to do it, but it's also outside their comfort zone. And that's where, to give people the tools, make that as easy as possible, remove distractions, be flexible about when is the best time to do this for you. Maybe you should just do it in the morning, because you always get involved in stuff and then you never take your time out for yourself. And ask them about it. Who do you need to be accountable to? How can we maybe get other people involved in this as well, so it becomes a work-based project, so that you can really feel it's adding value straight away. So I think we're all guilty of the same thing. We should spend more time developing, and we tend to revert to the status quo. It's really strong inertia to just keep banging the same drum. And a coach, if you work with a coach, part of that is the fact we do things for other people more than we do for ourselves. So I don't want to let my opposite number down. I don't want to let my coach down. So I'm going to do it for them, which is nuts, really, because it's completely for you. But we do respond to that. And training, for physical training and stuff, if you've got a gym class and if you've got a running buddy and you say we're going to meet at 8 o'clock at the lamppost, whatever, down the road, you kind of find yourself going there, even though you kind of really don't want to go there. You find yourself, here I am going, because I just don't want to let them down, and then you come back and you've got it done and you feel great, if you're glad you've made the time.
If there's a movie and you was flicking through Netflix, right, and you was watching a movie and you watched the first 5 minutes of it and you didn't like it, you just turn it off, right? You wouldn't feel no emotional connection to that movie. You wouldn't feel like you're letting the actors down because you've skipped their movie. You just find something else that you like. But as human beings, we say we want our self-development. We start our self-development. We initially make time and we don't enjoy it, right? We start studying for something and we don't enjoy it. And then we keep putting it off. It always goes to the bottom of the pile, and 6 months pass and we've hardly moved forward. There's nothing wrong with going, do you know what? That's not for me. I didn't like it. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Don't force yourself to do something that you're not enjoying, because you're not going to absorb the information. Just bin it off and find another one, like something else you want to do. As I've grown into myself, as I've got older, I've been a little bit more ruthless like that. And I will just go, no, it's not for me. Sorry. I get lots of these people on LinkedIn that say, join our networking thing. I used to be really polite and go to them just for the sake of going to them. And they were rubbish for me, right? They didn't work for me. And now I'm just like, no, thanks. I'm not interested. I just don't worry about it.
You have to learn that skill, because you're going to be, and the test I use is it a hell yes or is it a hell no?
Yeah.
It's like, I would like, absolutely, I want to do this, hell yes, and it's great. And I like the fact that, some of this is being like the willingness to uncommit to stuff as well. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible, just my own challenge. I'm terrible. I'm a sucker for like letting people down, right? But sometimes that can get you into, you're finding yourself, you're doing it just out of principle, and then you don't show up great. And to be honest, they don't get the best out of you either. So it's only doing others a service. If you're not really on board with this, just say, look, I need to focus on something else. For me, this is the right thing. But what I can do is this.
Yeah,
I can do something. I can do 5 minutes of support. I can recommend it to someone else. I can do something, but I can't give that chunk of time to that. It will kind of drain you of your sort of spark, and that's something you've got to really look after, your passion for what you're doing. Like I can see for these podcasts, you can see it's like you're loving this, and that's something to really protect. If you find this is making you alive, then how do I do more of that? How do I extend that?
If I was coming on here crying, going, "Oh, David, I just don't want to talk to you," and I was really miserable and grumpy, you'd be sitting there thinking, why is he doing this? Because he clearly doesn't want to be doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. You do on the first day of the first working day of the year. You're in there doing this, and I'm the same. But we are creatures of habit, and the autopilot thing is strong. So I feel like I'm labouring that point, but it's because I think we need help. Sometimes the thing we know we really want to do is about starting it, and yes, we can procrastinate and maybe it's not the right thing, but sometimes it's being able to break down that thing into something more bite-sized. And continuous improvement is a rocking tool for doing that. It's really good because we really value the small step stuff. So I feel that I have a kind of a little bit of a advantage here because I've really seen the power of those incremental steps, and it really does work. So if you've got a big task like, I want to move jobs, or I want to start a new thing, or if it's so big you won't do anything, it just sits there like a big blob. And if you can just say, right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open a bank account and call it the holiday fund, and you can do that literally in minutes. You just create a little account off your main account and start standing order, start putting some money into it. Just do it, do it now, do it right after this thing. And that is, I think Lean does teach us that, start with small things, value the small steps, and then you compound it over time. And sometimes once you get that sense of win and achievement, think, hey, this is working, I don't know if you've done like a savings project. Once the snowball has got to a certain size, it's actually quite enjoyable, and you just
Spurs you on.
Yeah, it spurs you on.
It does, yeah. It's that saying, isn't it? Eat the elephant in bite-sized chunks. I don't know why they say that, because you don't eat elephants, but meaning that you wouldn't eat the whole elephant in one go. You would break it down, so you'd eat the leg first, then you'd eat the other leg, and you'd slowly do it. I think sometimes we can be put off. I procrastinate. If there's a massive task in front of me, how often have I sat down to write a paper on something, and that first moment you open the Word document and it's this blank white page, and I'm staring at it thinking, I just don't know, I'm going to write the date. And I think I don't like the date there, so I rub it out, and then I go, then I write, this is by Matt Sims, and I go, I don't like
Change
that.
the format, do some more formatting.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you don't want Times New Roman. I go to Arial. I go, I don't like Arial. It's too common. And you just procrastinate. And I sit there, and an hour's gone by, and I think, do you know what? I could have just walked away from this, done something else, and then sat down and mind mapped what I want to create here, and then I would have had it clear in my head, and I'd be so much more proactive in what I'm trying to do. I can say all this stuff, but when it comes to actually doing it, I slip back to type, like you said before, and I end up going down the same mistakes I've always made.
So what have you learned from this conversation, Matt?
Well, I've learned that I'm definitely thinking right, but I don't walk the walk in what I talk. You're fueling my mind in terms of, yes, you're correct. But
so
yeah,
it's
but
about
so
execution and follow through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done all the training. I just need to perform on the pitch. We're running out of time here, and I've got so many things I could ask you. I'm gonna have to cherry pick what I ask you now, because we are running out of time so much. So can you delve into strategies for leaders to create cultures where individuals feel empowered to contribute and excel? And I think we've touched on it a little bit with the engagement piece, haven't we?
The one thing which I was never taught, and I would like, listeners to be more aware of, is the power of your attention on someone's performance. I think we tend to think that it's what we do as a leader. What information do I need to give someone? But actually, the power of your attention is massive. And you'll see this with your kids. They'll say, Dad, can you look at this? Look at me. I've just and they're not wanting anything from you. They're actually just wanting you to notice and be aware. And that's amazing. So the ability to listen well, the ability to ask great questions, the ability to just let someone process and come up with their own solutions is really valuable. And I think, we are taught this in Lean, is that the best person to solve the problem is probably doing the job already, right? They probably know what's the best thing. So, and we want to hear their answers, but that is a discipline. It's a discipline to not jump in with advice. It's a discipline to not get get into the weeds of the problem and start trying to make sense of it in your mind. It's a discipline to hold back and say, look, tell me more. What's the biggest challenge? And literally let the person come to that light bulb in their own consciousness. One of the techniques I do is teach people coaching techniques, how to ask open questions, how to listen at not just to the words, but to the body language, the emotion, because often people they're telling you stuff, and what they really want is appreciation. They want you to sort of feel their pain, and you're going in there trying to solve their problem, and they've already got a solution to it. It's just, what do you do when you find something difficult? You want to just share it to someone, and you should be able to share it with your boss without them having, sort of telling you to pull yourself together. You should be able to share it with at least your boss. You might not want to moan on the shop floor, but you should be able to at least share a little bit of venting. It's just get it out there, and then let's focus on what's important, what we can do proactively. I would say, invest some time in how to listen properly, how to ask good questions. Super important. It's something you can practice. Today, ask a genuine open question without prejudging the solution here. Get good at asking those questions.
That's a real skill, that is, as well, to do that. I don't know, my wife will ask me a question, or I'll ask her a question, and I know the output I want from that conversation before we even started it. So I don't actually listen. I'm just sort of,
yeah.
I'm instigating what I want. But sometimes you're spot on. That is exactly right. Really good advice. So a growth mindset. So what's some of the key starting points for leaders and individual contributors in a growth mindset?
The word growth mindset I think it was coined by Carol Dweck, who worked with a lot of kids in schools and stuff in America. And she realized that if people thought the brain was plastic, it could actually develop. So you're not born with talent, but we grow skills. We can grow all of these things if we can. I can if I will. That is something which is a gift a company can give the individual. You can, in your whole language, you start praising people for the effort they've put into the task. Well done for trying something new. You say that, let's reward, they've tried something new here and it's gone really badly, but well done for trying something new. Now we know what this doesn't work. And that's encouraging a growth mindset. What have we learned from that? What are we going to do differently for our next trial, for our next idea? And people tend to beat themselves up pretty bad for failure. And that encourages us to say, look, we're just not good at this. And what you need to be doing there is like encouraging them. You did great. You tried something new. I think a lot of people do have very hardwired limiting beliefs about what they can achieve. They're pretty sure they're not the sort of person to light up the world. They're pretty sure they're just Joe average, so, I'm not that sort of guy. And they keep telling themselves that. And to just say, why not? Why shouldn't it be you? Just challenge that thinking that you're plateaued out, you're maxed out. I can't be a supervisor. Like some people everyone else knows they would be brilliant, would love to work for them. The only person stopping them is something in between their ears. And we need those people to start believing in themselves. And a good way is to start fostering this growth mindset, What tools would help you feel confident in that role? What would enable you to feel confident with your team? Okay, let's see if we can come up with something to give you that confidence. Who would you love to be your mentor? You could be a great boss for your team. Have you ever thought about that as a responsibility? They want a decent guy there to do that job. Someone who actually understands what they're going through. Maybe you're the best person they could have ever had. Maybe you could be the best team leader these guys have ever had. Have you thought about it like that? So I think this is just this good challenge we need to foster a growth mindset, and it's really needed. It's going to be perhaps the biggest impact on efficiency, productivity will be on that kind of stuff.
The biggest challenge in anything we do is overcoming our own minds. I do believe that. When I talk to people and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" and I say, "Oh, I stand in front of people and I talk," and they go, "I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't get up there. I couldn't do that." And I'm like, "But why couldn't you do that? Like, you could do that." Right now, you're talking yourself out of the fact that you could do it. If I asked you to go up there and talk about your last summer holiday that you had, just tell us all about your summer holiday, you could do that because you know all about it. You're passionate about it. You love it. You could do it. That's all it is. But people talk themselves out of it. If they started doing that and I went, "You've done a really good job there. You absolutely smashed it. Well done. Like, you were so confident and spoke clearly." They're going to go away thinking, "I want to do that again. I'm going to do that again." I think there's so much can be said for giving people encouragement, and even when things haven't gone so well, give them encouragement about the things that did go well in what they did, because that'll get them coming back again rather than saying, I can't do that, can't do it. Right, last one then. Let's go in for this one. So in your view, what key elements are essential for organizations to not only optimize efficiency, but foster environments where individuals can thrive, grow, and achieve unparalleled excellence in their careers? Where's this golden holy grail of a place to be, David? You tell me.
We're all different, Matt. You know, what makes people tick is so different, and it is a lifelong journey to know. And we change as well. So not only is it different, but we also changes over life. What was important to you as a teenager is different to you when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. You know, and unlocking that or being aware of what that thing is and being curious about it and spending time and knowing what is your why, what gets you out of bed in the morning, is a journey. But I would really encourage people to take the time in doing that, really work out what is important to you now, and be prepared to move on from what was great is now not the thing which is going to bring you to life. People get older, their desire to share and to communicate and to hand over is different to in like your mid prime of life, when you want to be tearing up trees and cutting furrows and really getting something done. You do change, you know, and people don't realize they've perhaps moved past that time, and now they want to step back and reinvent themselves in a different way. And I think that's really exciting. So understand yourself and then be really curious about people around you. You know, what makes them tick, what's really making them drive, and how can we come up with projects and what we should be saying yes to and what we should be saying no to. And that therein lies a choice, and we have to accept that there's only one person who's going to make that choice, and that's me. You know, I've got to take ownership for that.
And it's okay to say no. Like, no isn't necessarily a negative. It's okay to say, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah. So I feel this is an exciting space. My bag is manufacturing. You know, that's where I feel there's a lot of good work to be done. So if your audience is wants to keep talking, you know, please reach out and let's connect and have discussions around this, because together I think we need to crack this together, because what I absolutely want to end is people being bored at work. You know, that really gets me angry to see people having their best days of their life, but they're not like excited to come to work. You know, it doesn't need to be like that.
You can feel it, can't you? When you walk into a room and all the people there are just surviving rather than thriving, the atmosphere is just so flat and horrible. And you think, God, how could you come here every day? Like, it's awful.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I know I said it's okay to say no, but I'm going to give you an example now where it's not okay to say no.
Great lead-in. Great lead-in.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? That was seamless. This is the yes-no game. So basically, I'm going to ask you lots of questions and you can't say yes or no. And I'm going to try my utmost to make you say yes or no. And we'll see if you can last the 60-second time limit. Sound good?
I feel nervous, Matt. Why am I nervous? It's a game.
It's because I'm eyeballing you now. Like, you can't say yes or no. I've got 3 cards to choose from, which will give you a different subject. Do you want card number 1, card number 2, or card number 3?
Card number 3.
Card number 3 is TV. TV. You know what TV is?
I believe it's an invention which
yes, good answer.
Changed the world.
Let's see if you can keep that kind of composure and coolness when I start putting the music on and I start really coming back with the questions.
Shoot.
Right, 60 seconds loaded. If you hear the really loud sound, that means you said yes, no, or a variance of yes, no. David, it's your time. Do you watch TV for entertainment regularly?
It's a waste of time.
Have you ever been so invested in a TV show that it affected your mood?
I'd love to say I was.
Did it give you the ump? Were you grumpy afterwards?
You know, I can't really comment on that.
Do you often use TV shows as a way to unwind after a long day?
I never am stressed.
Ooh, what's your favourite TV show?
Greg Wallace, Inside the Factory.
Yes, that's a great show.
Christmas special.
The Christmas special, did you say?
Yeah.
Gotcha. You were so close to the end then.
That is disaster. I stopped thinking. I started thinking about the content of the question and not the game. You got me. Okay, thanks, Matt. Thanks. Growth mindset.
Never mind. Well done. Right, listen, where can people go and find more about you or get in touch and see the things that you do and that you offer?
By all means, reach out on LinkedIn. I've founded Manufacturing with Purpose. That's my branding. And we have meets online and in person. The next online one is on the 19th of January. So people are welcome to join that Zoom call. We talk about these kind of things. And we're going to do a face-to-face one in February. So, let's keep talking. I think that's a good starting point. And, if I can support people in lifting their people up to new heights, then I'm in.
Those Zoom calls sound really. You have to send me the details of those, and I will pop them in the show notes below so people can see and get a link into there. Right, well, that's it. First show of this year is over. Thank you so much, David. Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions, Matt. I've enjoyed myself a lot. It's been a good crack, and thanks for what you're doing to shine a light on lean and how great that is for business. It's we need advertisers as well as inline, as it were.
It makes sense. Some key takeaways then from my discussion today with David. It was so enlightening. I really enjoyed every moment of it. Time just flew by. Acknowledging people's knowledge alongside technology is vital for more effective manufacturing processes, ensuring a holistic approach to operations. David spoke about it. It's so true as well. And the more he spoke about it, the more it hit home. That's exactly what we should be doing. Cultivating a culture of trust and collaboration through empowering leadership really does encourage innovation and maximise employee potential. You're only as good as your team. That's the saying that I was always told when I was sort of growing up in the field. And it's so true as well, because you're nothing without your team. Active listening and genuine care build strong relationships, fostering a positive work environment and enhancing productivity. If you genuinely care about your people, or you feel that your boss genuinely cares about you, you're going to go further, you're going to do more, and it's a great relationship to be in. Involving and engaging individuals fosters ownership, creativity, and enthusiasm, and it always leads to better outcomes. If you involve people, make them feel part of the solution, not just part of the problem, you're going to get so much more from them and ultimately so much more from your process. It really is that simple. Regular self-reflection aligns actions with goals, contributing to personal growth and clarity in leadership. I absolutely love the Peter Hines quote that David mentioned about having that did he call it the 0 level meeting, where you meet with yourself and you have a word with yourself in your head about what you're going to do, how you're going to behave, what's going to happen today. Love it. It's so good, although I'm not quite sure you'd get away with putting it in your calendar, but it's a really good idea. Incorporating lean principles with respect for individuals drives efficiency and continuous improvement in operations. You can't have a truly lean organization without starting with respect for people. Right at the bottom of your lean house, if you imagine the Toyota production system and the lean house, the foundations that right at the bottom that hold the whole thing up is respect for people and standard work. You have to have those before you can truly embrace lean within your organization. Empathizing with others' perspectives fosters effective communication, inclusivity, and collaboration within teams. You have to understand where people are coming from. Very few people go to work with the intention of deliberately being obstructive or difficult or argumentative. They go there with best intent. And from their perspective, what they're doing is best intent. We need to understand that, and then we need to use fact data and maybe some visualization in there as well to help people understand where we're coming from and have that discussion, have that dialogue. Don't be afraid to sit down and debate, because it might be what you're suggesting actually isn't right. It might be what the other person is suggesting isn't right. There might be somewhere in the middle that fits just perfectly. Encouraging stepping out of comfort zones really does stimulate growth, adaptability, and innovation in the workplace. When people see things with fresh eyes, they commonly come up with new ways of working, new ideas, new suggestions. It can be uncomfortable at times, but it's a really good practice to sort of build into your daily routine. Encouraging personal growth whilst respecting boundaries supports individuals' development and motivation. Logical explantation and visualization, utilizing logical models and visual tools aids in conveying complex concepts across diverse audiences effectively. You can have multiple generations in a workforce. You can have lots of people who have got lots of different backgrounds, lots of different academic levels, but you need to get that message across to everybody, regardless of what their background is, regardless of what their knowledge is, and not everybody will receive that message in the same way. So don't be afraid to deliver that message in different ways to different groups of people. Think about your audience. Understanding people's motivations, fostering engagement and encouraging collaboration creates a positive and productive work environment that's just so good for everybody and really does enhance your overall success opportunity. And finally, prioritizing ongoing learning and collaborative efforts facilitates growth and improvement within teams and organizations. It's so easy to train people in something and then go, you're really good at that. That's what you now do. We'll leave you there. People want to grow, they want to learn. It makes you a much stronger operation if you can train people in multiple processes. 3x3x3 would be my rule. Teach people 3 processes. If everybody knows 3 processes, you're always going to have somebody there who's got knowledge if someone else is off or someone has to shoot off somewhere or someone goes sick. You've got people with knowledge. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now, I've pulled out 12 key learnings there. I could have pulled out a load more. It was very easy to do. But these ones emphasize the importance of leadership, engagement, empathy, continuous improvement, and creating supportive environments for personal and professional development. And it all sets you up for success. That brings us to the end of this episode of the Ever Celine podcast. Thanks again to David for joining us today and giving us his wisdom and his insights from his career. It's been absolutely fascinating. If you like the sound of today's show and would like to hear more, please subscribe and follow the Ever Celine podcast at everceline.com. You'll also find episodes that you might have missed and learn more about the services that we have to offer now in 2024. They're super exciting. Check it out, everceline.com. If you're on the socials, search for the Ever Celine podcast, give us a follow and let me know about your lean efforts because I would love to hear all about them. Thanks so much. And I'll see you on the next episode. And don't forget, Ever Celine, you know it makes sense. The Ever Celine podcast is researched, produced and recorded by Matt Sims. Visit everceline.com to find out more.